Uhuru. 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 I want to appreciate everyone coming out tonight and all of our viewers online for this very important Sunday rally that we're having. It is a study on neocolonialism in the case of the recent woman crowned Miss America, which was an African woman named Deshauna Barber. We'll be talking about neocolonialism and Black feminism and how it plays a part in neocolonialism. But before we begin our program, I want everyone to stand so we can recite the African pledge. I pledge allegiance to my African people. I pledge to develop my mind and body to the greatest extent possible. I will learn all that I can in order to give my best to my people and our struggle for liberation through revolution. I will keep myself physically fit, building a strong body free from drugs and other substances which weaken me and make me less capable of defending myself, my family, and my African brothers and sisters. I will unselfishly share my knowledge and understanding with others in order to bring about change more quickly. I will discipline myself to direct my energies thoughtfully and constructively rather than wasting time in idle hatred. I will train myself never to hurt or allow others to harm my African brothers and sisters, for I recognize that we need every African man, woman, and child to be physically, mentally, and psychologically strong. These principles I pledge to practice daily and to teach them to others in order to unite my people in the struggle for freedom and independence. Uhuru. Before we get started, I would also like to mention that if you don't have the quotations from Chairman Omali Yeshitela book, we will be studying out of this book today, but if you don't have it, you can purchase it at the chairman's table. It's for $12. And if you're online, go to burningspearmarketplace.com and get your quotations from Chairman Omali Yeshitela, because this is not the only Sunday rally where we'll be doing studies from this book. And I encourage you all to get all of Burning Spear's publications. Uhuru. And now we'd like to present a video of Deshauna Barber. It's a couple minutes long, of her winning answer that gave her the crown of Miss America. Uhuru.
Miss USA 2016 is District of Columbia.
Miss District of Columbia, 26-year-old Deshauna Barber took home the crown Sunday night at the Miss USA pageant in Las Vegas. The Columbus, Georgia native beat out 51 other hopefuls after slaying the swimsuit and evening gown portion of the competition. But her most impressive moment came during the contestant interviews. Here's how she responded when asked about the Pentagon's decision to open up all military combat jobs to women.
As a woman in the United States Army, I think it was an amazing job by our government to allow women to integrate into every branch of the military. We are just as tough as men. It is important that we recognize that gender does not limit us in the United States.
But the night wasn't without a bit of controversy. The audience booed after first runner-up Miss Hawaii Chelsea Hardin was asked this question by Harper's Bazaar editor Laura Brown.
If the election were held tomorrow, would you vote Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
I would get that, right? All I have to say, it doesn't matter what gender. What we need in the United States is someone who represents those of us who don't feel like we have a voice.
Because those candidates give Hawaii and African people a voice. Uhuru. And now I want to, with the whole feminist rhetoric coming into play with the question of Miss America being crowned, I wanted to read point 9 of the African People's Socialist Party 14-point platform that specifically talks about African women. We want an end to the political and social oppression and economic exploitation of African women. We believe in the absolute, unequivocal political, social, and economic equality of African women and men. We believe that a fundamental test of the progressive or revolutionary character of any organization, party, movement, or society is its commitment, confirmed in practice, to the destruction of the special oppression of women and the elevation of women to the rightful place as equal partners and leaders in the forward motion of the development of human society and as leaders, makers, and shapers of human history. So when we say this, we didn't mean Deshauna Barber. We didn't mean Deshauna Barber being able to integrate into the U.S. Army. And we didn't mean Deshauna Barber being awarded Miss America by the oppressor nation, the oppressor getting to, we are the oppressed and get the title of the oppressor nation. That's not what we were talking about when we say the unequivocal and equal rights of African women within this revolutionary organization, within the African People's Socialist Party, and within when African people are free. This isn't feminism. This is the understanding that African women face a whole different oppression than what white women face in America. And the whole idea of feminism is just to get another piece of this bloody pie. To be equal in this system means to still uphold this system and to still uphold a system that maintains itself off of the backs of poor and working class African people in this country and around the world and other oppressed peoples. And we say we don't want any part of that, which means you can keep your feminism. We want freedom under the theory of African internationalism with the African People's Socialist Party. So that's what we want, not Deshauna Barber. And now I'd like to bring up Cleopatra Zuri, who will be doing a presentation on Deshauna Barber as a role model for African women. Uhuru.
Uhuru. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Deshauna Barber and who she is especially to young African women, because after she won Miss America, just the African community and especially the young African community went crazy over her because they felt like it was a personal win for us because Deshauna Barber is a dark-skinned African woman and Deshauna Barber has a name like Deshauna and it's not the generic white names and stuff like that. So I just thought it was a little crazy though, because she's the perfect example and cutout of a neocolonialist. And so I feel like that she's not a role model at all for young Africans or especially young African women, just because she's an African woman in the United States military. She grew up in a military household and her dad had already served in the Army, and she lived on base and lived a petty blue lifestyle and lived pretty good to be an African in America. And she just, when she got older, she went off to college to pursue, her petty blue dreams and everything like that. And she became an IT analyst for the United States Department of Commerce. So she was already well off, making good money, doing, for herself. She had plenty good money. And after that, which was interesting, and I thought it was really weird to note that she left becoming in that good job to join the military, which is, a contradiction, because usually a lot of Africans join the military because we're in, a situation where poor working class Africans and, the Army is sold to a lot of Africans as, this will get you out of poverty, you can provide for your family because we know you can't afford college. So what else are you going to do but join the military? But she wasn't faced with that option. She took it upon herself after she was already making good money, working for the United States Department of Commerce, to become a lieutenant and then join the military. So and it's not like she didn't know about the military. She didn't know what they do because, she grew up around it her whole entire life. And she knows what the military is, and she knows that I'm about to join a group of people who are about to go terrorize and oppress other people. And so I just thought that was really, crazy to know. If you just look at anything that Deshauna Barber stands for, she's the perfect example of a neocolonialist, and she openly, freely knows that she's going and terrorizing other countries, and she wants to be a part of that. So she is in no way, shape, or form a role model to me or any other African woman. Like she shouldn't be that. Her.
Uhuru. Thank you, Cleopatra. Woo. Okay, so before I begin, I want to see who in the room is familiar with neocolonialism and what that actually means. So you could just raise your hands. Okay. For those who aren't sure, neocolonialism, simply put, is white power in blackface. It is the oppressor nation using the face of the oppressed to carry out the agenda of the ruling class, making it easier for, well, poor and working class African people and other oppressed peoples, the indigenous person that they're using, the puppet that they're using, it allows them to basically manipulate us, like how they used Barack Hussein Obama when they elected him, and how African people placed this hope in this African man because he was African and he looked like us. But really, we understand that Barack Hussein Obama was probably the worst thing to ever happen to African people, and he committed, you know, the highest genocide of any president, bombing all different kinds of countries where African people and brown people are. So that's what a neocolonialist is. They look like us, but they're not for us. Basically, all skin folk ain't kinfolk at all. So I wanted to start and read of Neocolonialism, which is chapter 18 in the quotations from Chairman Amalia Shachela. And I wanted to start on page 88, at the bottom, the last paragraph. This epic of struggles and victories over neocolonialism and dependency represents the leading revolutionary tendency in the world today. It is an epic that finally thrusts humanity upon the threshold of world socialism, for it challenges the very foundations upon which world capitalism is built. This epic of struggles and victories over neocolonialism and dependency directly threatens the primitive and non-capitalist accumulation of capital upon which world capitalism was constructed and without which it cannot survive in its present form. A New Beginning, page 6. I'm going to tell you what your preacher won't tell you, and I'm going to use the scripture to prove it to you. The real question is, if Jesus was a revolutionary, then how come your preacher is such an Uncle Tom? Jesus was a revolutionary, Amalia Shachela Speaks, page 257. There is no greater evidence of imperialist despair than the selection of Barack Hussein Obama by U.S. white rulers as U.S. president and chief imperialist, public representative to the world. More and more, this effort to give imperialism the face of the slave is being recognized by the world to be the cunning act of desperation that it is. Imperialism is on its deathbed when you see neocolonialism more and more. But I thought in that particular statement in the last paragraph I read, where more and more this effort to give imperialism the face of the slave is being recognized by the world to be the cunning act of desperation that it is, that's from One People, One Party, One Destiny, page 29. And I thought that part in particular was very important because I don't think that Deshauna Barber was crowned Miss America by coincidence. And I think it gave America the perfect opportunity to use this as, you know, look, African people, you are making strides. You just won Miss America. And you saw how African people just reacted to this. And it was such a win for the African community to have this African woman who has a name just like Deshauna, because you don't hear a name like Deshauna often. And she was a dark-skinned African woman. And so that's representation for African women, and then the part that she can wear heels and combat boots. She can do it both. And there's the whole feminism at play. So first, wanting to get into, Deshauna Barber is an African woman recently crowned as Miss America, which is already a contradiction in its own, because you have this oppressor nation giving an African woman the title of Miss America. The same oppressor nation that's responsible for her even being considered American, for her speaking English, for her joining the military, for her why she's even in this country in the first place. This is what this country is responsible for, the murder and enslavement of African people, and that is what you're getting crowned. You're getting handed a bloody crown, and you accept that willingly. But continuing further onto who Deshauna Barber is. She was an African Army sergeant for the U.S. Army, a tool of the state, a puppet for white power. And like Cleopatra laid out, this wasn't an African woman who didn't have any options. It wasn't she joined the military because she She had nothing else, nowhere else to go. She had nothing left to her name or anything like that. It's not how when the Army comes into African schools when you're in high school, and not even high school, middle school, and they start recruiting on site. They start immediately going into classes and selling this terrorist organization as the best thing that could be for African people. They sell it as really the only way out for African people because they know we're poor. So that's why things like free stand out to us. Free school, free money, free this, free that. And African people know that we don't have those other opportunities any other way, so we join the military. That's something DeShauna Barber did not have. She grew up in a military family. She grew up wealthy, and she already had a high-paying position. And then she decided to put that aside to join the U.S. military, to willingly take part in the genocide committed against people across the globe and African people. So there has been this huge applause coming from the African community about how finally we're receiving representation in Miss America, a woman who can do it both, wearing heels and combat boots, about how this apparently is African people making strides in this system. Here at play, we see the same tired feminist rhetoric, mixing now with the idea that holding up this genocidal Barbie just because she's African. As if we're supposed to uphold someone clearly aligned with the state, carrying out the oppression of the ruling class by the ruling class onto poor and oppressed peoples around the world willingly. An oppressed person gets the title of the oppressor nation. The same nation which enslaved her people, African people, dispersed them around the world, murdered, commodified, and capitalized off of African people, stole the land in which America now rests, pushing the indigenous peoples onto concentration camps, and for 600 years have waged a war physically, mentally, and psychologically that have African people suffering no matter where we're located. The same prison of nations that wages war on the Middle East and Africa for their resources, bombing and killing with impunity. The same America that's responsible for the deaths of Tyron Lewis, Tamir Rice, Ayanna Jones, Mike Brown, Dominique Battle, Lanaya Miller, and Ashanti Butler. So this is what that crown represents, and this is what she represents. This is what DeShauna Barber represents. She doesn't represent African people, and for African people to take this as representation for us, we're easily pacified. This is too easy for America to just hand us this African woman who clearly is aligned with the state, and we just uphold her because she's African. She is a neocolonialist. She doesn't look at you as her, as African. She don't look at you as African. She looks down at you because you're poor and working class, the most downtrodden, stepped on population of people in the world today. DeShauna Barber does not represent you. She doesn't even recognize you. If she recognized you, she couldn't be happy with this title. She couldn't be happy every day that she goes and commits genocide. And she couldn't, consider it a win for women to be allowed into the military. That's just more killers. That is more killers. That is more assistance for the American military, for them to commit terrorism all around the world and to kill and to loot and to bomb and to steal. That's all she became a part of, willingly. So she doesn't represent African people. And giving us a Miss America, a dark-skinned Miss America, does not mean that now this is something for us, it's something for African people. And what we have to understand that when women in America make strides, it's not on behalf of us. It means now actually we have a bigger problem on our hands. It means now we have more people coming out to get our stuff. It means we have more people out now to come kill us, to come steal all of our resources. That's what that means. And when I said in point 9 of the 14-point platform, we have to completely separate ourselves from this system. We have to completely separate ourselves from feminism, because that's all feminism is to get a piece of the bloody pie. It's for white women to be held at the same standard as white men. It's for white women to get the same pay as white men, the same pay that comes at the expense of your life, your African life, the same homes, the same jobs, the same everything as white men. That's what that means. And African woman, you are not in that plan. That is not for you. And the only way you can experience any type of true freedom is if you join the side of the revolution. Because that is where your victory comes. When African people are free, African women are not separate from that. African people are free, African women are free, African men are free, African trans are free, African people are free. That's what that means. Uhuru. So we say Black feminism is neocolonialism. It's just another way to be tied to the system, just another way to ask for more reforms. And white feminism is even built off of the oppression of African women, and they use the oppression of African women and the different cases of African women as if that somehow reflects the entire population. That we are not treated the same. And this whole statement of, well, women are able to integrate into the military, it's talking as if you were already somehow equal to white women or already equal to anybody in the system, and that's not how it works, DeShawna Barber. That's not how it works. But it doesn't matter that she's a neocolonialist. It matters that she's a neocolonialist, but what she fails to understand is that regardless of how high she gets in the system, regardless that she, commits herself to the state and carrying out the agenda of the ruling class, it doesn't matter. African people will be free. The poor and working class people of African people will rise and take power. And DeShawna Barber, you're gonna have to pay a serious consequence for one, turning your back on African people and joining the side of the state, you and your whole entire family. Okay, all right, Uhuru, that was it. Uhuru. Okay, so I'm going to bring up Erica Kanyan, who is going to do the appeal, and after that, we will have discussion and questions. Uhuru.
Uhuru, everybody. First, I just want to say I really appreciate the presentations today. They really sum up, why this work is so important for African people. The International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement was formed by our party in 1991 to defend the democratic rights of the African community and defeat the U.S. counterinsurgency war against the African community. Today we have a goal, can you hear me? Today we have a goal to raise of $125. The resource to that goes towards the organization that is struggling to liberate all of African people and our resources. We do incredible work. We're nationwide and abroad, existing in places like London, Sweden, and Sierra Leone, just to name a few. We have Sunday rally or Sunday studies every week, such as this one for the African community to become politically educated and to win the masses to the right side of the question. We wage campaigns like the Black community control of the police, control of schools, and justice for the 3 Black girls that were drowned at the hands of the Pinellas County sheriffs. Our work does not stop there, but we need the support of you, the community, to help us continue the struggle that we have been engaged in for over 25 years. You can show that support today by donating tonight to help us reach our goal, and Cleopatra is going to bring around the basket. If you would like to join the InPDUM, we do have a table over here to the side where you can go and sign up, or for the people online, you can go to InPDUM or impdum.org. Okay, Uhuru.
I want to bring up the president of the local International People's Democratic Uhuru branch, Gazi Kodzo. Uhuru.
Thank you.
One moment. Uhuru. 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 All right, we can't let no technical issues get in our way of political education. Right, y'all? E's way to E Africa. Uhuru. So first, I just want to salute my young comrades, Cleo and Akile, for that amazing political sum up. Uhuru, Neocolonialism. Uhuru. So today, I wanted to speak about this story. When I was sitting there, something came to me to really say something about the story of Lavina Johnson. And I'm just gonna read her story real quick to you guys. So if you don't know who this is, now you know. Lavina Johnson, raped and murdered by her colleagues on a military base in Iraq. The case of Lavina Johnson. Lavina Johnson was a soldier who enlisted in the Army in 2003. She was the first woman from Missouri to die in Iraq. What happened to this young Black woman was appalling. She was found in her tent with a gunshot wound to the head, a broken nose, black eye, loose teeth, acid burns on her genitals, and a trail of blood leading away from her tent. What's even more appalling is the Department of Defense has officially ruled her death a suicide. The autopsy report and photographs revealed that her death was inconsistent with a suicide and looked consistent with a rape murder. But as far as the U.S. Criminal Investigative Command for the Army is concerned, the case remains closed. Her father became suspicious when he saw her body in the funeral home and decided to investigate. At first, the Department of the Army refused to release information, but eventually it did under the Freedom of Information Act after Pat Tillman's death. In 2010, a documentary about her family's struggle to uncover the truth about her death, called Lavina Johnson, The Silent Truth, was released. Uhuru. So I wanted to say this story because I feel like, pushing DeShauna Barber up as the example of, what can happen to you as an African person in the military, what the military can do for you as an African, right? It can give you these resources, all this access to, a colonial job and education and all these things, but nobody talks about, Lavina Johnson. And DeShauna Barber didn't even think it was good enough, for her to bring up this African woman's name. This African woman who, they didn't say in this story, but she was actually found in a bale, like one of those bales, and there was like a top on her, but the smell was so bad, and that's what they found her in. So apparently she killed herself and then stuffed herself in a bale to cover it up. And the acid burns on her genitals was acid burns that they throw on you after they rape you, so you can't find any evidence or a rape kit or anything like that, won't pick up any DNA. And, her face was beat up and all these kinds of things. And I wanted to show this because this is what it is to be an African in the military. When you get confused about fighting for a country that never fought for you, when you enlist in this, this tool of terrorism, which that's what the military is. The military is a imperialist tool of terrorism to dominate African and other indigenous countries and to take and steal their resources. So this is what you are signing up for. And I have a lot of Africans that come up and say, well, I'm a nurse in the military, or I'm a secretary in the military. I've never handled a bomb. I've never shot a gun. And my answer to that is the wheels of a tank are just as dangerous as the cannon of the tank, because the wheels are needed to get that cannon there to blow up them Africans. And you are needed, right, as somebody who is filing the files, as someone who's doing the enlisting, as someone who is writing up reports or anything like that. You are needed so that the murderers can do what they need to bomb these countries, right, in the name of white nationalism, to steal these resources from African and colonized people. You're signing up for a military that bombs Africa daily to steal African resources and to destabilize any kind of resistance or revolution going on in Africa or what they call the Middle East, right? In 1919, the US and the UN met and decided to draw up those lines and borders in those countries that you see. That wasn't decided by the indigenous people. That was decided by these colonial terrorists called the UN, and then they put puppet rulers in there to do their bidding. And whenever any of the puppet rulers that they put in there that to do their bidding stands against them or says, oh, I don't want to do that, then they label them as terrorists. They label them as dictators, right? And then they dethrone them by murdering them, destroying whatever military they have, and then putting in another puppet regime. If you don't believe me, ISIS, right, used to be an ally to the United States, right? Who trained ISIS? Who gave ISIS their weapons? The United States. So once ISIS gains power and decides that they want to not do what the United States wants them to do, now the ISIS is a problem and needs to be murdered and needs to be bombed, right? And all these people are leaving from, Libya, and they're leaving from the Middle East. They're not leaving because they're running away from ISIS. They're leaving because America's bombing the shit out of them. Leaving because America's bombing the crap out of their schools. America's bombing the crap out of their hospitals. Someone said, well, I'm in the military, but I'm a doctor, and I sewed up kids and stuff in the Middle East and Iraq. How many of their hospitals did you bomb before you sewed them up? And why they need the sewing up in the first place? They were healthy and fine before you came there and occupied and terrorized them and blew up their stuff, right? To steal their oil, to steal their resources. So we have to understand what we're signing up for. And all these commercials saying, sign up so you can become an engineer and an aquamarine or whatever, all these kinds of things that they want you to be. Like you can be an astronaut, you can be all these things. It's so you can sign up and join this killing machine to steal resources, your resources. When they bomb in Africa, they're bombing you. When they're stealing African resources, they're stealing your resources. So what? So you can have a good job, a good paying job, and you can be, your little black family can be clean because daddy's in the military or mommy's in the military. Your little black family can live on the base and, you know, get tax-free food and all these kinds of things, all these kinds of benefits. But what's your daddy done signed up to do? To kill someone else's daddy. What's your mama signed up to do? To kill someone else's mom. And the only thing those people are guilty of is not being white, living in a white nation. That's why we're bombing them. That's why we're invading them. That's the whole reason for this entire thing. The state oppresses. They oppress colonized people here, locally in America, by the mass incarceration, the school to prison pipeline, the murdering of our people, the murdering of those 3 girls, the murdering of Mike Brown, the murdering of Tamir Rice. This is the same state, the same system, the same imperialist system that goes out and bombs and wreaks havoc and poisons the water and does all these crazy things. The U.S. military is the military that has gone against the most war crimes in history. The U.S. military. Who wrote up the war crimes? Right? White people wrote that shit up. Right? The colonized people didn't write that up. So rules that you said was inhumane, you're going against. Because the people that you're going against and you're doing it to are not white. So it's okay to do that. Right? It's okay to do all this horrible, horrific stuff to them. And then we want to cry and boo-hoo when 50 gay people get shot up in Orlando. Right? And what was that man saying? People, you know, it's really funny that people want to say, well, it was an attack on the gays, it was an attack on the gays. If it was an attack on the gays, then he would have said so. But all the reports I'm getting, when he was on the phone, he said, I'm doing this because America is bombing my people. America needs to stop bombing Iraq. America needs to stop bombing Afghanistan. He's an Afghani. How crazy can we be after bombing Afghanistan for over 10 years and you shocked that an Afghani done shot up your club? How naive and dumb can you be to be surprised over that? The empire can touch everybody, but nobody can touch the empire, right? Now, we don't unite with terrorism, but we understand that it is connected to the imperialism of the U.S. That if the U.S. wasn't in Afghanistan, that Afghan man wouldn't have shot up and killed those gays. That's the only reason he was doing it. And it wasn't a gay thing or a straight thing because he told the black people, I don't have problems with black people. He let some of the black people go. So if he had a problem with gays, he would have shot up them too. He would have said, I don't care if you black, you still gay and I'm gonna shoot you up. But he said, I don't have a problem with black people. Y'all have suffered enough. This is because America is bombing my country. You see, ISIS knows who you are. You don't even know who you are. ISIS knows your ass is an African, that you oppressed, that you're colonized, and that you've been through a hell of a lot, but you don't even know it. You think you're an American. Ask any African who joined the military and went to the Middle East. Your friends, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, they'll all tell you the same thing. How nice the Afghanistan people were to them, how nice the Iraqi people were to them, right? Because they know who you are, but you don't even know who you are. They know your ass got bamboozled to put on that fatigue and hold that gun, but you don't even know you got bamboozled. That's how stupid we are. That's what colonialism does to us. And then we're proud to be part of that military. They know you got tricked to hold that gun, but you don't even know you got tricked to hold that gun. All you know is now you got enough money to buy yourself some good weave and a good pair of Jordans. And a Mustang, because for some reason, niggas in the military love to buy a Mustang. So that's what it is for y'all. But, you know, we are so disconnected from the struggles and the oppression of the world. We believe that this is a racist thing, this is a Black Lives Matter, this is a US thing. But you have an Afghanistan man in there telling you that he knows who you are, you've been through enough struggle, you're not who I'm targeting. He knows how you're connected in this world. and what side you should be on during this imperialist war that's going on. He knows you're on what side you should be on, but you don't even know it. So the Africans that were released from that club need to understand that they were released from that club because of the constant struggle of African people against the state. Our history of struggle is known worldwide. Because a lot of people have a question of, well, if he knew that, why didn't he let the Latinos go and stuff? Well, we don't do ISIS political education. But if he did political education with the African internationalists, with Chairman Omali Yeshitela, he would have summed up that those indigenous people have struggled enough too, and that he shouldn't be targeting them too, right? But ISIS is reactionary. They need to come get some political education from Omali Yeshitela because they got shit real fucked up. But anyways, so, we understand that those indigenous people have suffered enough, so we shouldn't be targeting them either. But he didn't get that. But worldwide, everybody else came to America, right, for better chance, better living, a better job. Everybody know we were forced here. Everybody else know we were forced here through slavery. Everybody knows about the history of our lynching, of them bombing us, of them burning us down, of Rosewood, of discrimination, of hosing us when we wanted to vote, of all these things. Everybody in the world knows. Our struggle is so put in the front of this put in the middle of this imperialist structure that anytime an African, well, mostly because now you have these coons, but anytime an African get a mic in front of them to let you know that we're going through some crazy shit here. So even the people in Afghanistan know that. Now, we can't say the same for, not to take anything away from their struggle, but indigenous people, because it hasn't been summed up and put out there in the world in the same way as our struggle. So then we have, this Miss America that they're pushing on our children. Somebody told me, oh, Gazi, are you against successful people? If you call signing up in the military to become a terrorizer for a white nation that oppresses you, enslaved you, puts you in mass incarceration, poisons your water, kills your children on the playground, you sign up to join the military for them, if you call that a success, Malcolm X said it best, only a fool lets the enemy educate their children. And that's why they call this a success. That's why everybody's saying, ooh, Deshauna, she got it so good. She in the military and she gonna win the Miss America pageant. She's so wrapped up in colonialism. And now they have a tour that Miss USA goes, right, every year. They're re-strategizing her tour because they want her to hit up more African communities than the other Miss USAs go to. Because they want her to push this onto our African children, to our African young girls. And a lot of our African young girls are going to eat it up because they just want to get out the hood. And they know this is the easiest way to get out the hood is to pick up arms for the oppressor. And it's our responsibility as the Uhuru movement, as African internationalists, to get in front of a campaign like this and tell our children, tell our young women that the only people you should be picking up arms for is your oppressed people. Is your people, is African people, is the poor and working class. That's the only people you should be picking up arms for. Uhuru.
See, I told y'all it wasn't a coincidence. This woman about to go on tour to all the different African communities to brainwash and carry out the agenda of the ruling class. This was definitely not a coincidence, especially in the era that we're in the height of the resistance of poor and working class African people. This is just very convenient for America right now. And with that, I want to appreciate President Gazi Kodzo for that presentation, and I want to open it up for some discussion and questions. Or comments, have something to say. No? Nothing? Somebody give, Dason, Uhuru. Please, say thanks.
Uhuru, I have a question, I guess, to ask you as an African woman. What was the first thought that came to your mind when you saw this Miss America being an African woman, and what did it mean to you?
Uhuru, Well, as a member of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement and part of the African People's Socialist Party, I didn't feel any emotion. Like, for me, I was like, okay. I mean, I understood it as, I was like, oh boy, you know, here this is, oh, we have this now. Like, that was my reaction. I think I got really upset towards the point where I actually saw poor working class African people saluting this woman. And I think that's where any emotion kind of came out, was because of the fact that we can't recognize a pacifier when we see one. We can't recognize a neocolonialist when we see one. And I mean, there's so many different struggles that are happening, and it's always clear to me that everything that happens to African people is a result of colonialism. Everything else is a symptom. And a lot of other poor working class African people don't understand that, you know, the whole oppression of women and things like that is as a result of colonialism and all these different kinds of things. And so when I saw all these different like struggles as to why we have to uphold Deshauna Barber for the African community, that was just really frustrating for me. So as, you know, just as a woman, it didn't mean anything. But, you know, as an African internationalist, as part of the African Socialist Party, you know, it was just, it lets me know that we have a lot of political education to give for the masses of the poor working class African people. And we got to get them on the right side of the question, because then they're going to continue to, you know, think that this is, like, they're going to just continue to, you know, want to be a part of the system and and uphold things like this, when really we should be tearing it down and tearing it apart and analyzing it for what it is. So I hope that answers your question, Uhuru.
My question to you, because you're the keynote speaker, my question to you is, what do you think as parents? I'm not even going to speak from a father's perspective. I'm going to speak from a parent perspective. When you have a young African daughters, we're going to say, that can't really put it in perspective of what you're talking about yet. How do we start educating maybe girls that's, I'm going to say, under 10, that may not understand the significance of that late, because all they see is a pretty picture. You got to remember, that's just a picture that them still on TV. They don't have the understanding of or the knowledge that we have as far as understanding what we need to understand. But what do you think, the question, to sum up the question, what do you think as from an African woman would be the best starting point at that age? What do you say to them? How do you come?
Well, I think it's very important when you're trying to sum this up to your children, that, or to your young African girls, that one, I mean, because if they see this pretty picture, then what you can do is deconstruct this pretty picture, and then you can show them every ugly picture that Deshauna Barber actually represents. And you can just lay it out like that. Like, do you see this? But this is what it really is. This is what it means to be Deshauna Barber. And then I think you need to show them women that they actually need to look up to. African women that need to look up to. You know, we have Secretary General Gaida Cambone, and we have Chief of Staff Tammy Harris, and we have Deputy Chairwoman Ona Zanaya-Shatella. And we have so many African women, powerful African women throughout this struggle and, you know, throughout our history in general, that we can be giving to our African daughters, to let them know that these are the women that you need to uphold. They fought for your freedom, you know, all this different kind of stuff. And because they're going to teach you, like, they're going to teach them in schools and everything like that. And I think right then and there, at as early as possible, you got to deconstruct every idea that the oppressor gives them, and then counter it with what we have produced. Because the African People's Socialist Party has produced some of the most dynamic African warriors, women warriors in this movement. So I think that's what we have to do as early as possible. Early as possible. Uhuru. Anyone else? Penny, Uhuru.
Uhuru, I really appreciate this discussion today and the presentations that were given, really powerful, and I just really want to salute the comrades that made those. And I am Penny, Chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee. the organization of white people that was formed by the African People's Socialist Party. We work under the leadership of the party, and our work is to go into the white community to win reparations to African people and to win white people to stand on the side of solidarity with the African liberation movement, the African revolution, that Africa belongs to African people, and that all of the wealth of America and white power is owed to African people, and that this country and capitalism itself is built on the enslavement of Africans, the theft of Africa's resources, the theft of African human beings, and turning them into commodities, and the theft of this land here from the indigenous people. So everything that white people have is on that pedestal of the oppression of African people. And I just think the whole question of feminism and what you're raising is, yes, you summed it up perfectly, that white feminists are there to become equal oppressors in this system, whether it's to have the rights to be in the military, to fight for white power and for colonialism all over the world, or whether it's to be in the police department here inside the United States, part of gunning down African people, just like in this town where a white woman cop was one of them that killed Tyrone Lewis in 1996. And this is what it's about. This is part of imperialism. And, you know, white women could say that, oh, well, we were oppressed. Well, the reality is that if you look at articles or books or accounts of what happened in the lynchings, which was vicious colonial violence and terror against African people, white women were at the forefront of that, egged white men on to kill the Africans, posed little white girls in front of the destroyed bodies of Africans hanging from trees to take a picture of this hideous violence that was white people were proud of. So, I think that everything that we're summing up here is really important, is really correct. White feminism has been really key in neocolonialism. It denies colonialism. It says all of a sudden, oh, even though we're part of the oppressors and we want to be part of the oppressors, it's saying that there's no difference between white women and African women and other women all around the world who are victims of white power. It denies that when it's convenient to us. And, and it continues to say that we want to be equal with white men, to continue to oppress and make the money off of African people and the people on the planet Earth. So the only answer is the African People's Solidarity Committee for White People. We have to be in solidarity with the African Revolution. We have to be going inside the belly of the beast to tear down white power brick by brick from inside. That's what the strategy is. We're part of the strategy of Black power, but we work in the white community and we raise the same question that imperialism has to go, and the only future for white people is in solidarity with African liberation, because African people are tearing the system down and building a new world in which African people can be free, all oppressed people can be free, and there's no oppression of women any place in the world. That's the only way that's going to happen. I want to say reparations now.
Uhuru, thank you, Penny, for that. And also to go back to the last question, I want to say that also parents, to just set the record straight for your children when they're growing up, you also have to be a part of this movement. You have to be part of this organization, because nothing's going to teach them more than them seeing their parents fighting for them and their freedom. And they're going to want to do the exact same thing. So that would also be an answer to that question. Anything else? Uhuru, Javon?
Uhuru, everybody. I just really want to appreciate Akile and the International People's Democratic Uhuru movement for bringing this issue to the forefront. It's something that's as minor as the Miss American pageant to us African internationalists means so much to Africans, throughout the U.S. So we have to sum this up and let people know that this is just the Barack Obama effect again, another neo-colonial puppet that is put in place to control the masses of the African people that don't have the African internationalist perspective to protect them and to guide them and to lead them. So, InPDUM being a mass organization is doing their job in with this topic, because the masses are interested in what I've brushed off as just petty entertainment. But the question of neocolonialism and the class question is something that myself and Daesoon True talked about on Africa Live, and that's a real question. You have the petty boo forces who will try to lead you. If you don't know what the petty boo is it's the Black African middle class who will try to lead the working class Africans who create all the resources, all the production, create all the wealth that has all the power. Really, the African working class has all the power, and if we decide to turn our backs on this system and start our own, then there would be no use for U.S. Or colonialism will have no more power over us. So understanding that, and InPDUM understanding that this is just a great topic for us all to join in on the discussion, and just to really understand neocolonialism, white power, and blackface, and how it has no interest for us as African working class people who wants freedom and also self-determination. So I just want to appreciate InPDUM for this wonderful topic. Uhuru.
Oh, was there anything online, Javon? I didn't see you. You said no? Was there anything online? Before oh, Mark, you didn't? You sure? You positive? I thought you did. Didn't you say something about you being a really big feminist or something like that?
Uhuru. I just mostly want to unite with the summation that Akile and Cleopatra gave today. There's really not much more that I could really say that hasn't already been said. But I definitely do believe that if we are genuine and serious about ending the oppression of African women and all African people, that revolution in African internationalism is the only solution. Uhuru.
Well, we do have some feedback online, but it's all from angry white nationalists right now. So we're not. Yes, we love it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we know we're doing our job. We're putting the line out there, and it's being drawn, and that's all we can do. We appreciate your comments, though. Thank you. Join your Uhuru Solidarity movement. Okay, well, if there is nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and close out the discussion. I really appreciate the participation, because this was a very important topic, and for things that you would see, and you're just like how Javon said, just petty entertainment, that kind of thing. But it can be summed up, and it's not as petty as it seems, because it's huge, and it needs to be summed up for the community. I want to go ahead and bring up Chimaranga, if you can hear me. He has an announcement to make. Uhuru.
So, just briefly, on yesterday, a member of the African People's Socialist Party, David Smith, was arrested on 2 felony charges. one charge of auto theft of his mother and father's car, and one charge of aggravated battery. And the information we have right now is that he went to a car lot with his mother and father. Apparently there was some issue about the car they had bought a couple of weeks ago. And his mother was feeling a little ill, so he told him he was gonna take her home. And they said they didn't want him to take the car. And the salesman tried to stand in front of the car. He went around and went home, and they sent the police to the house. And he ended up with a car theft charge. They say in the aggravated battery is, the salesman said he tried to run him over. So we're trying to raise $1,700 to meet his bond. He has a $17,000 bond. And this is a really serious matter. This is about 10 minutes from Sanford, Florida, where Trayvon Martin was murdered. So this happened in Longwood, Florida. So I want to just ask people to, I know you already given, but I want to ask people to dig deep and make whatever contribution you can. We're going to run the money through one of our accounts to get to the family and try to get this brother out. So I don't know if the basket is, can you pass it around again? And whatever you can do, comrades, is going to be really important to do that. I'm going to write a $25 check myself to help toward this effort, but it's going to be really important to try to get this brother out. You should also be checking your emails. Kobina Bantushango, who is the Southeast Regional Representative, should have been sending out mass emails by now, letting people know the situation. By the way, he did go to court this morning at 9 o'clock, so we don't know the results of that hearing. That was his first court appearance. But anything you can give will be appreciated, and then we'll be updating people along this week to let people know whether we're going to do a call in or not to the jail. But we need to raise this money. Uhuru.
Okay. Oh, they soon. You're up with the Black Power 96 update. Uhuru.
Uhuru. First, I want to say that I appreciate the study. I think it's very important that we have this conversation because there is a lot of people who don't understand the magnitude of something like this. And also, I want to say how happy I am to see Comrade Erica wearing that lovely shirt that she's wearing, that Black Power 96 shirt. Such a lovely shirt. So yeah, just I want to say a little bit about Black Power 96 and being in St. Pete, Florida, that 70% of the African families in St. Pete live below the poverty line, and have an opportunity to work with Black Power 96 means economic development for the community. So Black Power 96 is a great opportunity for those not only abroad, but especially here in the St. Pete area. With over 90% of the media being controlled by 6 giant corporations, Disney, Comcast, News Corp, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. Black Power is our chance to tell our story and have stories like what's being told today on the radio, an FM radio station, and being told to a wide audience. Black Power 96 is always recruiting and trying to win people to get involved with the radio station and be a part. We're looking for DJs, promoters, people interested in helping out with the fundraising. Pretty much anybody that wants to be a part of Black Power 96 is encouraged to go to blackpower96.org or to come here to the Uhuru House every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. We have a meeting that we talk about a lot of stuff that's happening with the radio station. And also every Saturday, we do outreach in the community to bring awareness to the radio station. And that's from 2 to 6 p.m. We meet here at the Uhuru House and go out into the community. And if anyone they have any questions would like to call, telephone number is 727-914-3614. Uhuru.
Are there any more in-house announcements that anyone would like to make? Uhuru, Shango. Oh, okay. Actually, Chimaranga, and then it's Shango.
So we raised $105 for the brother to get out. So we want to appreciate it.
My name is Shango, and I am over promotions and membership of Tyrone Lewis Community Gym. And I'm asking everybody in this room to come on out, come get a workout, come join the gym. And for everybody that's in the party, because the intensive is right around the corner, you don't want to get your head, be caught with your head underneath the ground because you can't work out, you can't run because you haven't been in the gym. So come on out, come join the gym, come get a smoothie if you don't want to work out. It's healthy and it'll clean you out. So, Uhuru.
Any more announcements? No. I want to thank the Aquaba Hall for letting us host yet another Sunday rally / study here at, and you can rent this space out as well. And, oh, never mind. Okay, also, I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and participating in this study. And please, 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 where is it at? Okay. We're going to be having more studies like this, so I highly encourage you to get the textbooks of the Revolution, which are all located at that table right over there. This quotations book that we read from today is only $12. $12, but it is worth so much information in this little tiny book, I promise. And also get you a burning spear for $1. And before we close out, I want to again say thank you, all of our online viewers, thank you, including our white nationalist fans, thank you. And thank you for everyone who participated in building this rally, and I'll see you guys next Sunday. Please, before you go digging in, let's go help Chimaranga out with the flag. Uhuru.